think she was just guarded and protected because of what had happened to her. You're really glad that Hallmark were happy to delve into this world. If you are not crying, you were not watching the episode.
Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome today Natasha Burnett. Natasha plays Minnie Canfield on When Calls the Heart. So, Natasha, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this chat.
I'm super excited to talk about the season. But before we get to season 12, I want to go back just a little bit and talk about your transition from stage to screen. So some people may not be aware that you played Diana Ross early on in your career in The Magic of Motown. And you said that that experience is what caused you to think about moving from stage to screen. So can you talk about why that experience made you want to switch?
I had initially always known I'd like to try both. It actually just so happened that stage came up first, and I really loved doing it. But I think doing it for 6 years and playing the same character, I think I decided I just wanted to see what else was out there. I still always had a passion and love, and I still absolutely love the stage. But I think I wanted to just try and see what it would be like. And if it was a medium I could get into, because not all theatre actors even want to go onto screen, and sometimes they can't make the leap. And after having gotten to the point on stage where I had learned things behind the scenes as well. So sound, lighting, how to do set lists and all of those sorts of things. I felt like I had had my time learning, understanding, experiencing, and it was either shall I find another show to go into, or shall I try and do something on screen? So I opted for the latter.
There you go. Was there a role that after you made that move that you were like, yeah, this was a good move?
um, I think so. One of the first roles I did, it was for a short film. When I was living in Australia, I was living there for a year,
Yeah.
and I'd gone to the drama school there, NIDA, and so their graduates who were producers and directors, if you've done a course there, they will be trying to do their short films and such, and then they will audition people that have done courses there. So I remember doing the first short film that I was cast in, and that was exciting for me because, you know, it was the first time I was cast to lead a short film. And so it was a moment where I started to learn, and for some reason I remember this so clearly, that it was the first time I learned about wide shots, medium shots,
Oh,
and
yeah.
close shots. And I just learnt it on the fly in the middle of the scene, and knowing that, okay, well, when it's this wide, you don't need to show all the emotion, and then you work from that. And so once I realized I'd mastered it, but first of all, the fact that I'd even booked it at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
because you know so many actors that go to drama school, they're auditioning for any of the productions that are being put up by the school. So it was just exciting, and it was a moment where I felt, oh, actually, you know, maybe I can do this, and maybe I don't need to be background. Maybe I can actually
There you go.
audition for roles.
Feel that confidence a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
So when you interviewed for, when you tried out for When Calls the Heart, we
Mhm.
know that you did quite a bit of history to prepare for that. You even thought about, what is Minnie going to sound like? So can you talk a little bit how you prepared to authentically represent a woman like Minnie during the 1910s, 15s, 20s?
So, as everyone now knows, because I'm British, most of my research had to be on African American history. So that was my first port of call, which wouldn't always be if you are American.
Yeah.
I had a lot to really understand about the women from the early 1900s, the Black women from the early 1900s, what they were able to do, because I still wanted to make Minnie realistic. I know Hope Valley is an alternate universe, so to speak, but I still wanted to make sure she was authentic in the best way she could be. So I definitely wanted to see what other African American women were doing at that time, what they were able to do. They'd established that Minnie's family was fairly affluent, so it was trying to research, okay, what could her family have been doing that they were affluent? What would have been realistic for that time? And how would that have impacted Minnie's life growing up? What opportunities now does she have if she is from an affluent family? So it informed quite a lot, and it was actually kind of fun
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
see.
Yeah. To be able to even craft the character, like this is a new character that you get to have such an impact in developing, I think is pretty amazing.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. It definitely
So
was.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it definitely was. It definitely was.
So is Minnie from St. Louis? Because I know when we were having the whole who has the best
Oh,
chili? Was it
yes.
chili? Was it
Barbecue.
barbecue? It was barbecue. And we had
Barbecue.
Joseph from Kansas City and
Hmm.
Minnie was from St. Louis. Is
Yes,
Minnie from St. Louis? Do we
she
know?
is.
Okay. Okay.
That's we believe that is where she is from. Um, that's where her family is from. So that's, I mean, there was so much of her backstory that we had to come up with,
Yeah.
who her father was, how he would have related to Joseph, and also understanding that during that time, how old you would be when you got married was very different. So all the things that Minnie could have done before she got married wasn't maybe as much as now, because you can get married in your 30s,
Yeah.
40s, and it doesn't matter. Whereas back then you're sort of thinking, okay, well, where would she have been in her life at around 18, 19, 20 before she got married? So yeah, St. Louis was her home.
And I have a special bond with the Canfields because being from Missouri, I think we've got them both covered there. So, all right. So you get the part and you're going to be Minnie Canfield. And we know that you had been in Harvest Moon with Rothgar
Yes.
Matthews. And then you also starred, which I remember very clearly. You played Cindy in Love at First Bark with Kevin McGarry.
Yes.
Which let's just talk about that. That was one of my favorite movies of Kevin's because I loved Cindy. I feel like Owen needed Cindy. Owen was
Right.
I mean, I distinctly remember when you came on When Calls the Heart, I was like, that's Cindy.
Yeah,
So
that was a fun one, actually.
it
Yeah.
was it was a fun movie, and I was like, I applauded Cindy for her organization and wanting to get things lined out, and I was like, oh, I was really excited to see you join the cast, having seen you before on Love at First Bark. Was there anybody else when you came onto the show that you had worked with prior?
Oh, yes. Andrea Brooks. I've probably worked with her the most. In
Cool.
fact, I'm pretty sure I've worked with her the most. We did a show in 2015 called Unreal. We were
Okay,
on that together, because we also have the same manager.
got it.
So we, I mean, we didn't directly know each other through that, but then I think when meeting on Unreal and we realized that we had the same manager. And then also I did The Bridge,
Okay,
1 and 2, and she was also in that. So
quite a bit.
that, yeah, I've worked with her a few times.
That's awesome. So did you kind of, when you're on set and you don't know a whole lot of people, were you hanging out with Andrea a lot, or was it just, I feel like we hear often you're on set and immediately people just welcome you in. What was that experience like?
It was with everybody on the set of the show. It was really quite comforting to know, considering we were 8 seasons in.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it was comforting to know that they were really on board with the storyline and having another family come to town, and they welcomed us really with, just like the Hearties did, with open arms, and they made our lives very, very comfortable on set. 100%, as well as the crew as well. They are also they this is such a well-oiled machine
Yeah.
that you step into the world, and even though you may have never been there before, you don't feel out of place. They always make you feel like, okay, this is your new home for the next 100 years.
That's right. And we've heard Viv Leacock, who plays Joseph Canfield, Minnie's
Yes.
husband, on the show. Viv has shared that you guys actually didn't know each other prior to When Calls the Heart, but there were so many people there that were surprised about that because there was such an immediate chemistry. Can you talk a little bit about that first experience with him and that off-screen rapport that's translated so well on screen?
I honestly have no idea how our friendship just blossomed in an instant.
Yeah.
It was, for some reason, we just were on the same page straight away. I was in the UK at the time of the audition. And as soon as I flew back because of COVID, I was in quarantine. So all I was able to do was speak to him on the phone. And I had my 2 weeks, and then the Friday before we started shooting was the only time we had to actually meet in person. But even from the time we spoke on the phone, we clearly had a good friendship already in the making. We had a very similar sense of humor and a very good understanding of how we wanted to portray the Canfields and what we wanted to do with their stories, given the opportunity to collaborate, which we were. So, by the time we get to say, it allows us now to improvise and play around a lot more. And we don't often talk a whole lot before certain things in scenes. If one of us feels that, can you go and stand that side of the table, and we're just gonna play the scene, the other person would trust them and go, okay,
Mhm.
and we'll just follow each other off a cliff sometimes, but sometimes it's great. And it's just nice to be able to work like that.
Absolutely. Well, it's meant to be, it sounds like, because it translates very well. So we've been so happy with having the Canfields in Hope Valley now for, what is this, 6 seasons? 8, 9, 10, 11,
Yes.
12, 5.
Five
Let's
seasons.
go.
Five.
Let's hope for 6, right?
Yes, we're
So
hoping for
6
six.
plus. What would you say is your favorite thing about Minnie?
Um, I really like how level-headed she is.
Mhm.
I try to be that level-headed.
Don't we all?
And even though she is my own alter ego, I cannot seem to manage it. She seems to know exactly how to just calm any situation down, which 5 years later I'm still struggling with. I don't know what's happening here. Um, but I love that she's so level-headed, and she always seems to make everything make sense.
She
I just
almost seems to be, she's also one of those just in the right place at the right time kind of people too, right?
Yeah.
Just there to give that advice when it just needs to be given.
Yes, she always, and it seems to, I mean, obviously it's scripted, but it never seems to take her a minute to think about,
You
on
just
the
knows
tip
the
of
right
her
answer,
tongue.
right? Which we'll talk a little bit more about because I think, with this storyline with Angela, maybe
Yes.
it threw her off of her game a little bit. She's experienced something now that she hadn't planned for. So we'll
Yes.
get into that, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. You talked a little bit about that Minnie comes from an affluent family.
Mhm.
Is that the reason why Minnie has some of the best style in Hope Valley? Because she's got it going on.
in real time, Barbara is the reason she's got the visitation. um, but I would say so. I would say so. I'd always assumed or figured that, when you're from a certain background in a certain time, you have to be seen a certain way by the rest of your community. So your appearance is number one on the list, and how you're perceived by the outside world. So and I love her this season. Her
Mhm.
hair, I
Mhm.
like the change with her hair, and the combinations with her style this season. She's upped her game.
She's got it going on. Do you have a favorite that you're just like every time I put this on, I'm like, this is one of my favorite mini costumes. Do you have a favorite?
There's actually two. There's one where I have an orange skirt, and it's an orange blouse that's like a V-neck, and it's kind of slightly puffier sleeves, and
Yes.
it's floral.
Yeah.
I like that combination. That one's cute. Um, but I also really liked what I ended up wearing in episode 9.
Yeah.
I always loved that jacket with that
Yes.
skirt, but I don't know what it was about seeing it then that I thought, oh, I really like this combination.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Well, she has some of the best style. Um, and we love your videos that
Oh,
you've done one every,
my
have you done one
transition
every
videos.
season? I know you've done
I
several.
have. I
Yeah.
have. It's getting really hard now to come up with something original. I've really, the last one I did, I was in different locations. That's right. Because I really had to think, okay, I'm always in my trailer for them,
Oh, yeah.
changing clothes.
Yeah.
How can we level up this year?
Uh-huh.
How can we level up?
Well, we're
What
looking
about make
for
it
it.
difficult for
So
this?
we are looking for them every year, just so you know. We expect
Yeah.
them so, and you do not disappoint. So it's always fun to see what you're going to do with those videos. So that's cool. So Minnie has made quite an impression on Hope Valley. How would you say Hope Valley has made an impression on Minnie?
I think it has completely changed her view on people, on life. I think she was just guarded and protected because
Mhm.
of what had happened to her,
Yeah.
and what she had experienced, which was a totally natural reaction.
Yeah.
And I think, no pun intended, but clearly it's intended. She goes to a new town and finds a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And over the over the years, I think she has grown in that way, and it would be really nice to see more of that with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we're I think I mean, I'm interested to see, like I've loved this season that there's been this development of Angela's storyline, and I don't even want to necessarily call it Angela's storyline because we've just
Yeah.
seen this enormous just growth in Minnie, and I know that in last season we got a hint of that this might be happening, that Angela
Mhm.
might be wanting to leave Hope Valley. But it's been so interesting to watch that transformation with Minnie. Can you talk about, was this when you learned about this storyline, and I guess it would have been last season, were
Yeah.
you told it's going to go through the next season as well? Like this is the start of it and it's going to keep going?
Well, with a lot of these storylines, they're always up for discussion and, altering how things play out. It was such an important story to tell, but inevitably, the outcome of, okay, now we've gone to visit this school means that, okay, now she has to do something because she wanted to
Yeah,
go for so
yeah,
long. Um, but it's sort of been discussed loosely that, if we go again, would she just be absent for a period in the season? And I think we kind of thought that maybe it would be she comes on home on weekends.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, she's not
mhm.
gone all the time. So, you know, she's still part of Hope Valley because whether it's us going to see her,
Yeah.
which would we always thought would be really nice because of Keisha and Ginny, who played Clementine, and Emma, it would be so nice to work with them again.
That was they were fantastic. Did
They
you
were.
have any input on how this story would progress throughout the season?
Um, there's we have so many discussions at the beginning of the season, and as things come up, we always discuss our thoughts, and they're always open to hear how we feel
Mm,
about certain things, and especially if it comes down to, well, how is Minnie going to react?
yeah,
How should she approach this situation? So that was always a topic of discussion with getting to the end result of the final scene she had with Angela in the cafe, and how we got to that place. How did she feel about the brochure? And there was a lot of discussion about that, actually, because we wanted to make it authentic, that Joseph and I were on opposite sides
yeah,
of the same coin.
yeah,
Um, but we also wanted to make sure we shared the valid reasons why we were
yeah,
and what our concerns were. And of course, for Minnie, I think she feels in some way responsible for
mhm,
Angela's disability.
mm,
So she doesn't want to suggest that she goes somewhere where there could be another problem.
yeah, yeah. So you talked about Joseph and Minnie kind of being on opposite sides of it. And we saw, I mean, Joseph and Minnie always just like work so well in tandem together. But we saw earlier in the season where Joseph makes a decision in talking with Angela and doesn't include Minnie in that process. Can you talk a little bit about like how that all played out? Like why did Joseph make that decision? Because it was a little bit out of the norm for Joseph and Minnie.
Yes, yes, because we very rarely have any conflict.
Uh-huh.
We're always in unison. So I think I think Joseph knew that the only way that he could get Minnie to see this from a different perspective was to just go ahead and get send for the brochure and get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, as much as Minnie was angry, uh, I think she understood when Joseph said, I did it so we could look at it together.
Got it.
Because the truth is that, if it's something Angela really, really wanted to do, she could have just decided she was sending it off for the brochure herself and decide she wanted to do it on her own. But I think because Minnie was struggling so much with it, she wasn't able to see past what she was thinking, and
Mhm.
she needed Joseph in that
Mhm.
moment to open her mind up to,
Mhm.
well, if we look at it and then we go with her together, isn't that better than her perhaps going and trying to attempt it on her own?
He just needed to get Minnie to that level-headed, rational part of herself.
Exactly.
He just needed to get her there so that she would, oh, that does make sense. So,
Sent exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, episode 9, we get
Mhm.
to they're kind of hurrying around to get ready to go. There's a lot of anxiousness. We're trying to figure out where the scarf is. Do we need to go get the scarf? What was everybody feeling in that moment? What was Angela feeling? What was Minnie feeling? And it was interesting to watch Joseph just kind of stay back and be the calm one in the moment. But what were they
Yeah.
experiencing then?
I feel like definitely for Minnie, um, she almost almost wanted to show Angela that, you've got to be on the ball if
Mhm.
this is what you would like to happen next, that I don't know is the right thing for you. So I'm going to project a little bit of my fears
Mhm.
onto you in this
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
which is so unusual for Minnie.
But
It's
she
an unusual way for Minnie to
is.
react to something. But I think it develops her as a person, because she's always been so level headed that there had to be a time where Minnie has to fight something of her own. And,
Absolutely.
not everybody can see clearly all the time. And I think it was time for Minnie to have a moment like that for herself.
Mhm. And as a fan, somebody watching, that's something that we want to see our characters experience, that relatability of, well, as level-headed and as
Yeah,
got it together and in just the right moment with the right answers Minnie is, she's still a human being and she still has
exactly.
emotions, especially when it comes to her child that she has to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. There was a lot happening there for her, and I think, yeah, of course, Angela felt she was overreacting, and I think Joseph knew to just step back and perhaps let this one play out, because we're always so quick to step in and maybe say something, and sometimes it's better just to say nothing, and then she'll figure it out for herself, which Minnie did.
So they get to the Schwartzman school. First of all, talk about, if you can, just I mean, Sarah Maberly, that team, the
Yes.
design. We've had so many incredible sets this season.
Yeah.
This one, what I loved about it, I really felt like they weren't in Hope Valley. It was
Mhm. They
so unique. And I do think that it had to do with, the new characters and all that. But can you talk a little bit about the set?
Yes, so we actually converted the judge's office.
I wondered if that was it. I wondered.
Yes.
Yeah.
They went in and they complete overhaul. It was it was done so well. The attention to detail, because I had put up on an Instagram post. They had a plaque on the wall with explaining who opened the Schwartzman School and the picture. It was just the attention to detail,
Mhm.
all the things you would never have seen
Mhm.
when you're watching it in the wide shots or anything, because it was either on a wide of the room or it was on one of the close-ups of us.
Mhm.
Um, but they put so much attention to detail with that, and I think it looked so good in the episode that I don't know that anybody commented that they thought it was the judge's office. I think they covered it so well.
Well, I knew I was going to be talking to you, so I was studying it a lot. But because you can kind of eliminate places that it's not
Right,
based on the
exactly.
size, right? And I got to go to HFR this last in
Okay.
September. I got to be there, and so we got to tour the set, and so you
Yeah.
kind of really begin to
Uh,
understand the
of
size
course,
of the
that's right.
buildings. And I'm like, okay, well, I can eliminate most of them
Yeah, right.
at this point, and then the
Definitely not the
door.
Queen of Hearts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at first I was looking at I was like, is that the Queen of Hearts? And I was studying the door. But did they even like, it seemed like, they were, sharing some of the exterior. Was there something put up on the outside of the doors that kind of blocked? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
There was
yes, I
some
do.
greenery and all of that
Yeah,
created
they
that blocked.
yes, they used some of the greenery to, because otherwise, when the shots were out the door, we would have seen the rest of her valley.
Got it.
What? This is where the Schwartzman School is? Um, so yeah, so they had to add a little foliage to
Uh-huh.
to hide a few things.
But what was cool, I mean, even that choice, and I don't know what was, what the hope was in just even using that as that kind of barrier to Hope Valley. I mean, they could have built a wall or something, but the greenery to me made it just feel more homey and like Angela was
Yes.
walking into something that's just inviting and a comfortable place. I mean, even the greenery, I think, just kind of portrayed that type of an environment. So it was a good call. So
Yes, yes, she did, or they did a really good job
yeah.
at
Yeah.
designing that.
So, and then we had several new characters. Can you talk about were those all, did they try out? Like how did we get this cast in for this moment?
So the all the cast were visually impaired
Okay.
to some degree, and that was actually a very interesting conversation to have with a few of them.
Yeah.
To what degree were they visually impaired? Because some of them, they don't need to use a braille book. They don't need to learn braille because they can see enough, but they are still considered legally blind. So yeah, that was a very very interesting conversation to have. It's like something you have no reason to think of, and a lot of things were brought to our attention during the filming of that.
Yeah.
Keisha Anderson, who played Clementine, and Ginny Sarin, who played Emma, they both. So Keisha, she's done theatre before,
Okay.
um, but neither of them had done television. So this was their first role on television, and I mean, they really were
They,
amazing,
they were amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the background there had. It was such a really nice space to be in with all of them because they were so happy and fun because they were just so excited to be there. And it's that feeling that you're really glad that Hallmark were happy to delve into this world,
Yes.
and they were just so happy to be there, and then they could say, oh, I'm on this TV show, and it was
Mhm.
just really something special for them, and it was really special for us to be part of because it was all shot on one day.
Mm.
So a lot of things had to be put in place for them to ensure that they were as comfortable as
Right.
possible in the space, because being the judge's office also, with all the cameras and the
Mhm.
set deck in there, it brought the walls in a bit. So of course we had to make sure that everything was safe. They had the opportunity to get comfortable in the space, and we made sure we worked out what they needed to do
Mhm.
to, whether it's hit their mark
Mhm.
or where they needed to go or what helped.
Yeah.
Um, because again, for some of them, bright light, they can see bright light. So if it was helpful to know that, because sometimes if all we need to do is ensure, okay, well, if we have a bright light on this side, they know to look in this direction or that we're going to be standing there.
Mhm.
So that was really, really a huge learning curve for all of us. But they were so great. They were fun and funny. They were self-deprecating. It was just great to be around them.
It was definitely a very feel good moment on this side of it. What do you think, like, what transformation do you think Minnie went through in that time that they were at the school?
um, I think, when she first got there, even though, Joseph, he was looking at the plaque, and Angela was there at the Globe
Mhm.
with the Sahara Desert, I feel like Minnie was a little closed off in the same way she was when she first arrived in Hope Valley.
Got it.
She wasn't necessarily convinced that she was going to see anything that was going to make her feel better about Angela wanting to do this. Um, the minute they walked into the read aloud, I think that was a real moment for her.
Very special.
Um, and just the way everybody greeted her. And I think that was a moment where she felt maybe this is her, the place for her.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and she really felt, I think as I think there was a definite sigh of relief there, because you can always fight with, okay, well, what if she loves it and I hate it? How do I get her to not consider going there anymore? So I think for more than one reason, it was such a relief for her to realize that actually maybe no, this is the best place for her.
It's very interesting to then watch as they go back to Hope Valley.
Hmm.
And then it's almost like those emotions switch. So you
Yeah.
could talk a little bit about how Minnie ended up kind of being that cheerleader for her, and what was that like?
It was so nice to, in one episode, play that arc for
Mhm.
Minnie,
Mhm.
because we knew it didn't start out as we know Minnie to normally be. But I thought it was a really good idea to make this so personal to her, that with such a personal struggle, she couldn't easily find an answer. And in this instance, seeing it secondhand made her realize her mistakes in
Mhm.
approaching the situation with her. And then, so of course, now when Angela's like, I can't do it, it's no, wait, no, you can absolutely do this. And I think she perhaps felt a little regret,
Mhm.
um, maybe that she was a little too hard on her in the beginning, considering she's standing there now saying, "Oh, I can't even make tea for myself properly." And I was initially saying, well, if you can't even remember your shawl, how do you expect to,
Yeah.
go to stay away somewhere? Um, so I think she realized that she had perhaps been a little hard on her,
Yeah.
and she needed to level with her. Um, and it was really nice to recall that story, because it's
Mm.
something, again, we have never seen Minnie do. She's always talking as an outsider, so to speak, and these are my words of wisdom that I think will help you.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas this time it was nice to see her recall a story from her past for a
Mhm.
change.
It was so, that, analogy, story, metaphor of sharing about sliding down the hill and
Yeah.
just, doing that first, taking that first little, try it out, and giving Angela that wisdom. So was Minnie, where is this story now? Because we know Minnie has said, just try it out, right? Just that first time. So are we now Angela's going? Is that what we're gonna do? Is that how it ended?
Well, the thing was, it was pretty much Minnie giving her blessing,
Yes.
so she can now graduate. And if she would love to go to that school, she's definitely 100% behind her
I
now.
love that. I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. And so again, once again, it's Angela's story, but at the same time, we've just seen this incredible growth and experience for Minnie too. So that's pretty
Yes.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about you had an opportunity when you were told about, hey, we're going to do this importance of earnest.
Yes.
And guess what? You get to talk like you talk
Right.
every day of your
Great.
life. So when you heard that, what was that like?
that was just the idea of it. When I first heard it floating around, I was just thinking, this is going to be the best. I The idea, which I've always wanted to do, was do something where I had to switch accents.
Mhm.
So knowing that I had the opportunity to say three sentences two of which are British, and then the third one being in American. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a fun experience. It was just really exciting to be able to actually try that out. And I was thinking at the time when we were doing the scene in the cafe, I was thinking, oh, now does this mean I have to push my American accent because having just done my British one, maybe it will be to like a soft American accent?
Yeah.
Because if I'm doing Minnie all day, I pretty much stay in her accent. Though when I'm talking to people normally, I speak how I normally speak.
Yeah.
But being that she's Minnie as well, and then making sure that Minnie's accent in British
Yes.
was Minnie.
Yes.
That was a tough one because I just thought, my, how would she sound if she
Yes.
was able to do a British accent? This is so different to how I would sound, and I have to maintain my mini-isms
Yeah.
throughout, even when I'm doing the play. Um, so I sound like Minnie just putting on an accent. So that's a weird one when the accent you're putting on is your accent. Um,
Well, it was so fun to watch their reaction in the cafe. Was there a similar reaction? You know, just the fact that oh, it's the first time that Natasha gets to like use her accent. I mean, was there that moment of just filming where everybody was still a little bit kind of like caught off guard by the whole thing, or was it like, oh, we hear her all the time talking this way?
I feel like it was the latter. They do hear it all the time. But I think because I was playing the character as well, I'm sure it tickled some people to hear
Mhm.
still,
Mhm.
because it's just Minnie just as a man speaking British. There was so many layers to it.
So who on the cast has the best British accent? I feel like you're an expert in this.
Johanna's is pretty good.
Nice.
Somewhere in my back of my mind, I feel like she spent some time in the UK.
Oh, got it.
I feel like she did spend some time in the UK. Um, yes, hers was
Pretty good,
pretty
huh?
good, and Loretta. I mean, she's Australian,
It's
so
closer, right?
it's
It's close.
closer as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Not
yeah,
as far to go.
exactly.
So the actual play itself, Johanna shared just how much fun that was. And can you talk a little bit? I mean, I think everybody feels like Rothgar stole the show with all of the
He did though. He did. Just
which we
saying
learned he
nothing.
was not, that was not originally in the script, right? With all of the sound effects.
Yeah, exactly. So
So,
he just shined from all of us. Just at that table there with the shoes and
the kissing into the microphone was
yeah.
so good. But talk a little bit about, you know, the costumes, just playing that out. What was that? How much fun was that?
That you very rarely, I think, on a lot of sets do you get to do things like that. And especially when it's a group scene and it's all the cast, some of which were obviously involved and others that weren't. But even going for the costume fitting for the suit, and just go, this is really gonna be a good day.
Yes.
Um, and then of course in the costume fitting, your hair is however it is, and then now add that to the hair from the 1920s, and it really made for just so much fun standing up there. And then, of course, all the cast members that were watching and the extras that were watching, it was just fun for them to see us do that.
Johanna shared that Aaron stayed and was just like this the whole time, taking it all in.
Yeah,
Especially for
she
us.
stayed.
Yeah. I mean,
She had, I think it was, I mean, to be fair, everyone that was there, it didn't matter how many times we did that one scene, everybody had a grin on their face every
yeah.
time because was just fun and funny and something I don't think has been done before
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah. It was definitely on this side of it. I know I would have watched a lot more of it if you guys wanted to keep going. It
Yeah.
was, and your timing into the microphone with the line was, a lot
It's
of
so
fun.
funny when you see how they edit things,
Uh-huh.
and they had that slight suspense music, and then
Uh-huh.
Joseph is like, uh...
And then the lean into the mic, and it was like, and there it is.
yeah.
It was good. So talent, speaking of, we know Minnie is an exceptional choir director, but now that I mean, and we know how well you can sing, how do we get Minnie in front of the mic more often, singing and not just leading the choir?
I don't know. I would love for Minnie to sing. I I feel like Minnie and Joseph should be singing some hymn in the church one day. I think it would be so nice.
Yeah, that would be great to hear. Yeah, we need to make that happen. We got to hear
Yeah.
Joseph. We got to hear Joseph do a little bit this season.
Yeah,
Um,
with Henry, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So that would be fantastic. We need to start pitching that, don't we?
Yeah. We really need a petition for that.
Minnie has a big sweet surprise coming in episode 12. So that's not anything that's not already out there. Can you give any hints about what that might be?
It's everyone in town showing their love and support to Minnie. A lot of her journey this season has been quite personal, and it's played out with Angela and Joseph. Um, I think, like, the main storyline in Hope Valley is often community, and this is one time that the community really shows up for Minnie, and it's a very emotional time for her to see that.
Well, we're excited to see how that plays out. We've heard many times over lately that community is one of the big words for the last few episodes.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see what that looks like. So, who would you say is someone that is going to be impacted greatly in these last three episodes?
Oh, there are a few people. um, Elizabeth, uh, Elizabeth, Rosemary, and the thing is also Minnie.
Mm,
Everything for her, I think she revisits a lot
mm,
that she hadn't, I think, even thought about
mm,
since it's happened.
mhm,
Um, so between the three of them, there are a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, and a lot that has to be dealt with.
mm. In three episodes, right?
Yes, in 3 episodes.
Here we go. Three episodes. So I'm assuming you know how the season ends.
hmm
Okay. So what will our reaction be to the last 2 minutes of the season finale?
If you are not crying, you were not watching the episode.
Well, and Loretta confirmed that when she was interviewed by Edify that people are going to need tissues. So
Yep,
we know
yep,
we're going to need tissues right up until the very end, right?
yep.
We
Right
will
until the end.
everybody have them ready, right?
It's a good season cliffhanger. Because every season, they come up with something, but this one is a good one. There's a lot going on before it happens. So once you get to the final 2 minutes,
Mm.
you are probably on another box of tissues.
Oh my goodness. We will be ready then. Okay. We will be ready. Let's look ahead a little bit. Let's cross our fingers and look ahead. So Minnie
Yes.
always seems to be the one giving advice. We've talked
Hmm.
about how level-headed she is. And we know that she's always got Joseph there. I mean, they're there for each other always. But if there was a friendship that you would like to see developed more for Minnie, someone that she could lean on more, who would that be?
Oh, that is a really good question because she really doesn't.
She needs a gal pal.
She does. She needs someone. She
Mhm.
needs someone that is a really good question. I mean, actually, a couple of people have sort of wondered, well, could Faith and Minnie be
I was
close?
going to suggest it if you needed help on one, but
Yeah, I had thought about that
yeah.
because they are, she's got Lily now, and
Mhm.
so I feel like they have some things in common, and actually, we don't really do much together.
Mhm.
So it would actually be quite nice.
And I think, Minnie would have a lot to offer her as far as parenting goes. But I
Yes.
think, Faith is such a, as a doctor, such an even keel,
Yes.
that side of it that I think she could provide good wisdom to Minnie as well. So,
Oh, absolutely. I think Minnie could learn quite a lot from Faith, just in a different capacity. And then that opens up Minnie's character,
yeah.
which is quite nice.
If we do get a season 13, do you have any wishes or ideas for Minnie?
Well, the one wish that seems to just float around all the time is Minnie's backstory. Um, and that would be fun. That would be fun story to tell. However, it kind of would take her away from current Hope Valley because to delve back into that. But I do think what can be used from that is who who was she before she got married? Where was she in her life before she got married? What was she studying? Then there's all of those questions that haven't been answered. So at this stage where Angela is moving on with her life as well, perhaps it's a moment for Minnie to rekindle whatever it was that she had to put on hold when
Mhm.
the children were young.
Mhm. And she's already kind of been thinking that way as she's been kind of like helping Angela navigate through this. I know we've
Yes.
known a little bit about Minnie's past, but I do think that, I mean, we got to see that a little bit with Joseph last season and his brother coming to town. And so it'd be great to see Minnie have some sort of an experience like that as well.
Yeah, it would be really nice to have her have someone from
Yeah,
her world coming because she did initially, as used to happen often in those times, you become part of his world.
yeah.
So I think it would be nice I don't know if her parents are still alive, but it would be nice to either see one of them, speak to one of them, visit one of them. There's so many variables.
Mhm. So talking about the whole, I think there's something so special about the Canfield family. Um, Fans really love the Canfields and that dynamic. So what do you think it is that really draw fans to the Canfield family?
I think first and foremost, it's how strong their faith is.
Mhm.
They always go back to it. They always lean on it. I think people really like to see the way Joseph and Minnie um, always manage to find themselves on the same page.
Mhm.
Um, Even if they agree to disagree or whatever the case is, they always find a common ground. And it's something that everybody wishes they could do as well as
Yeah,
Joseph and Minnie do it.
yeah, yeah.
And as a family, again, I think there's a level of respect and family values that they all share that
Mhm.
I think is quite wholesome. Being that they collectively came on the show as
Mm.
a put together family,
Mhm.
you know, which is not something they had had. So there are many elements here that I think the Canfields represent for the viewers, along with
Mhm.
diversity and disabilities and everything else that they represent. There's so many um, facets to the Canfields that I think even everyone will find one thing
Mhm.
that is why they like the
Mhm.
Canfields.
Mhm. Well, and I know when they came in season 7, I don't want to say that it filled a gap, but I think that when they arrived, it really made it become very apparent that here's an opportunity for this community who's so grounded in friendships and everything. And faith has always been there, but it kind of like brought that kind of back to the forefront a little bit about, there's always that place you can go to. And in this case with the Canfields, it's like they brought that centeredness to the community in a way where it's like
Right.
we see so many, again, Minnie is just there at the right moment, and
Yeah.
Joseph several times this season he's just been there at the right moment. So I think that as a fan it's very relatable for us to
Hmm.
connect with the Canfields, but then at the same time we learn from the Canfields who are having experiences that we may not necessarily have ourselves. So I think that also is what makes them so unique.
Yes, yeah, they're definitely. It's really because when I booked the role, I didn't know
Yeah.
that we would go here with
Mm.
it, and didn't know that we'd be able to delve so deeply into various layers of the Canfields, and it's really been a pleasure to be able to tell Minnie's story and tell the Canfield story, and to be a part of the town in the way that we are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty special. Okay. Do you have a word? I know you've already shared community, but do you have
Yeah.
any word that might give us a little bit of a tease for what's to come in the next 3 episodes?
Strength.
Mm, new. That's a new word because
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of words floating out there, but I don't know that anybody's used strength yet. So that's cool. That's great. Natasha, do you have any like projects coming up or anything that we need to be looking for?
Oh, um, well, if you are a fan of horror,
Hey.
if you are a fan of horror, Final Destination 6
Yes.
is coming out in May 16th in the movie theater, as you would call it.
Nice. Yes.
Um, so I'll be on that screen on May 16th.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
We'll get to see Minnie in a whole different role, right?
Whole different role.
Well, thank you so much for visiting with me today. We're super, first of all, we're loving the season, but we're super excited for the next 3 episodes. It's been such a joy to watch the Canfields and Minnies and Angelas and Joseph and Cooper, right? We've got to say, we've got to give Cooper a shout out.
Oh yeah.
So it's been so great to watch them this season. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.